GM,
Yeah,
GM. Yo, Valco, what is up?
GM.
Nothing much. Just catching up on my daily NFT news.
And what did you come across so far?
Well, I was catching up on a few different sources. Obviously, Warren himself, great source, as well as in Zen Academy. We've got some good daily updates. So one of my favorite articles that I'm just reading through right now is quote NFTs can't scale in their current form, says super duper co-founders. And so that's obviously, a very FUD headline that I really want to dispel that FUD. And there's the BlackRock thing. BlackRock bought a shit ton of Bitcoin and is now filing for an ETF.
Wait, what? That's fairly recent, no?
Yeah. That was like, I think the news broke this morning.
But why did the market drop like 20% or 10% over the last day? Was it kind of because of that or
Because Big Daddy BlackRock wants to make a dip so they can buy more.
makes sense, makes sense. Is it going back up now? Like, let me check.
Oh, I don't know. I'm not up with my price action yet. Uh, although I did see a red ETH candle posted on
Yeah,
your feed.
yeah, you indeed saw it correctly. I guess all over your timeline, everyone was posting those red candles.
Yep. People be upset. I'm not too worried though.
Yeah. Other than that, there was Zeneca was in Lisbon actually. He had a Zen Academy little event. So people, I had my friend Sarah, she went there and hung out with him, took some pictures. So yeah, would have been cool for you as well because you're part of it.
Yeah, no, he's great. He's doing a bit of a hard reset right now in Zen Academy. So I've been a member of their 333 club, which is kind of like, I guess, their VIP club versus the regular Zen Academy kind of area. And but for the whole group, he's basically doing this hard reset. I think he realized, he's been pulled out of the community himself. He's been put into a little bit more of a managerial capacity. He's got a pretty big team under his belt now. I think like upwards of 8 to 10 people running this whole thing. And he's spending less time in the community. And obviously, he's such a tremendous resource. His whole rise to fame was from his ability to take kind of complex thick crypto topics and break them down in these like beautiful educational threads. So he's doing a big hard reset to get himself back into the community. So he's spending 80% of his time with the community rather than his team. And on top of that, I think he's just like axing, killing, stopping a bunch of um, these side projects that they've taken on that frankly, they've got like so many initiatives. So he's just trying to regain focus around, I think, their core mission, which is, I think generally just NFT education, NFT onboarding. I forget the specific verbiage, but yeah, it's a great group, great guy. I'm jealous you got to meet him in person.
Well, I actually didn't meet him in person. I had friends who went to his meetup who were part actually of the community. But yeah, I was think it's challenging, when you get fame as an individual person and then you start building something big and then you as an individual, your time is not sufficient for everyone that's part of your community, then you have to kind of like scale and as you said, hire like 8 people. And it's interesting how people can like how these groups can keep that authenticity. So I don't know, maybe one day when your community will grow to the size that not everyone can have a piece of Valco, that's something that will be interesting to see.
Yeah, it's we'll see. Fortunately, Discord's pretty good at scaling one person across like hundreds, but thousands, that gets to be pretty hard. But that's when you got to do more stuff like this, more Discord voice chats, AMAs, IRL events, which is all in the works for the V3 collective. We're still just making sure we have a very strong community under our belt, but It's been a pretty good past couple of weeks. A lot of progress on the V3 collective. Um, Getting ready to sort of hit the scale button pretty soon here.
How big would you estimate uh, the size of active members for
Of active members, that's a good
yeah, that
question.
that are like
I've
deep
actually,
into the community and would consider themselves like community member?
yeah, so we have 156 official members. So everybody had to, it's like invite only. So it's not like they just like hopped in. So they definitely had to go through some hurdles to get in. In terms of active members, though, it's actually pretty hard. I think in Discord, if you want to get those sorts of analytics, you actually need to have like 500 people in your server, or maybe it's 2,000. I forget, but TLDR, Discord analytics are not available to me. I have not brought any bots in to help me with that. However, I did implement this reputation system, which is like the Reddit karma system. If somebody reacts with the lightning bolt emoji, that is the same as an upvote on Reddit, and you build zaps, which is like Reddit karma in my community. So what I was thinking of doing is basically a more upstream thing than just daily active users is actually daily active users adding alpha. And so basically I could see like who got at least one zap every day. So I'm basically building a system to measure my own active users, but I would estimate
Yeah,
of the
like
150
gut feeling.
members. Yeah, I think of the 150 members, we've got 25 who are engaged every week, pretty seriously. We get maybe 5 to 10 showing up on our community calls. Um, so,
That's a good
it's
start.
okay,
Yeah.
but it could definitely be a higher participation rate.
Yeah, yeah, it's a good start. It's a good start. I'm just seeing on my Twitter timeline that the goose is up for sale today. Sotheby's, the goose ringer.
Yeah.
It's so funny when these happen. Like everyone's like tweeting about it, and it's just like all over. The,
What was the last sale for
I
that
think
thing?
it's
Do we know?
2,000 ETH by Three Arrow Capital.
Oh my god. That's why it's amazing because
Well,
provenance.
provenance, and it kind of looks hilarious with that goose, and you have Farouk tweeting about it. You have all these guys, and they're trying to like get the price prediction. So it's listed. Sotheby's says it's gonna be between 2 and 3 million, but I think I actually ran a poll on this last week. Uh, but yeah, I don't know. Do you have any thoughts on the goose? Actually,
Oh,
I never
jeez.
got
2000 E.
the ringers. Did you ever understand? Because fidenzas, they look amazing, but the bloody ringers, like,
Oh, I
oh,
love the
please
ringer
explain.
aesthetic person. I can't. It's just, it's so simple and geometric. I honestly couldn't explain to you why I like it so much, but, I think for me personally, I actually like the Ringer's aesthetic more than the Fidenza aesthetic, although I do really like both aesthetics a lot.
Yeah. Well, the thing is, like, a ringer, you show to anyone in the street and they're like, "Ah, that's pretty," like everyone kind of gets it. Whereas the ringer, there's like a backstory underneath it. There's like some context that I think you need to know to appreciate. I don't know, like there's like I don't know, like a unique path of all these stuff. I don't know. I have to do like more. I don't know it either, I guess.
There's definitely some art history knowledge that probably like, you could probably say, oh, the Ringer's style, not just being significant in the generative art movement and the on-chain movement, but also like it pulls from this artist's famous style mixed with this artist's famous style. So much good art is like it's like juxtaposition of things. And that goes not just for visual art, but for music. And frankly, even tweets and content, right? Like oftentimes you're like taking two trends and kind of smashing them together with your own spin. And that's how you get like unique, viral, hot content.
Yeah, yeah, and Dimitri Cherniak is pretty good at marketing and networking as well. So
Yeah, like checks, like Jack Butcher's checks, I think did that so famously. He combined the Damien Hirst like kind of style of these like dots with the checks. Um, during all of the Twitter verified blue madness. And it was like a really beautiful project. And then he obviously like incrementally expanded and improved the project, adding features and more games. Uh, and it's just popped off. Honestly lost track of all the different things happening in that whole world with the OPEPE art and all of that. But it seems the mutation and burning um, kind of functionality or breeding functionality he's created has definitely been a big hit.
Yeah, actually, I'm just looking like Jalil just tagged us in the CryptoPunks Telegram. I'll have a look at it later. But yeah, have you seen the board punks? Came out kind of yesterday.
Are those new? Because like I saw you tweeting about them, and I almost like felt like I had seen the art before.
So I mean, it's quite hilarious. They basically took over Twitter in 1 day or 2 days.
What?
Uh, yeah. So if you want, I can fill you in on that. Like I've been following pretty closely for the past day, and I had a I had a pretty successful giveaway to say the least.
I saw that.
Dude, that thing blew up. It's crazy.
Yeah. Well, okay. So what's the deal with these things?
Well, so there's this random guy on Twitter that about a week ago or 10 days ago started tagging some call them punk influencers with their board punks, right? So you have my punk, and then he tagged me with the board punk version of mine, and then he tagged I don't know all Nick, and he tagged Farouk, and he tagged a bunch of people, and like it was I noticed it, I retweeted it. It was kind of fun, and then yeah, I mean I never really paid attention. He DM'd me, that we'll be minting soon. I was like, yeah, man, another deriv PFP of punks, the usual, right?
Right.
And uh, and then I just forgot about it. And then two days ago, I wake up and it's all over my timeline, right? All over my timeline. And essentially, what happened is, well, the mint sold out, and they did 10,000 uh, CryptoPunks, right? They basically did 1-to-1 the 10,000 CryptoPunks, but they used the new ERC 721 standard, which is the ERC 721R standard. I don't know. Have you heard of that one yet?
No.
So like previously, when you would mint 10,000 NFTs, the mint number would increment by one, right? So the first one minting would get number one, the second one number two, etc. But so if you're doing like 1-to-1 the CryptoPunks again, like that takes defeats the whole purpose, right? Because you know in advance what you would be getting.
Right. You want a specific like image to be correlated with a specific token ID, regardless of the order they were minted in.
Exactly, right? So you would want them to be minted randomly. I don't know. So number 5,000 first and number 3,400 second, like just fully randomly. And this standard came out, I don't know, recently, a week ago or something. And so they were one of the first ones to kind of use it and like leverage it. And yeah, they minted out for 0.0069, right? So that's like, I don't know, $12. And when I woke up in the morning, I'm seeing this all over my timeline at zero point zero 0.01 ETH. So they did, like a 10x or maybe like 15x just after the mint. And so I was like, okay, shit, so I picked up a couple, like all over Punk's chat. There was like this going on. So I picked up a couple and I was like, you know what? Why not just do a fun giveaway? I missed out on it anyway. So I did that tweet with the VR Punk, right? And
Right.
that freaking blew up. Because everyone was like, having fun with it. The board punks account retweeted, and then it basically got like, I think what was it, 35K view, and I got 10,000 new followers in 1 day. And so yeah, pretty cool. I just transferred the the price to the guy that won it. So yeah, and I might do something similar actually tomorrow. It was so cool.
That is pretty cool. Um, do you ever focus on when you do your giveaways on like ensuring they're provably fair or like people don't really care,
Yeah,
like
so
have
so
trust?
so if you look at the tweet that I put, I used a tweet picker.
Uh-huh.
So you have to like put some conditions that this guy follows you, that this guy has this many followers to make sure it's not like a bot.
Right.
And then, the draw is made and then, so yeah, but it was pretty cool. I mean, I don't like to be one of those giveaway accounts that does this like every day, but it's pretty fun. It can be pretty fun.
Yeah, I should do some more giveaways, mainly just like within the communities I really like. I just like I can't afford to give away a punk, so I gotta think. What can I give away? I could give away a Genesis rock.
Well, how much is that?
I mean, there's the like 0 to 100 Genesis rocks, which I think the floor just like moves between 3 to 10 ETH there, but super liquid collection. So it's the V1s of Ether rock.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And then, but there was another bug in the Genesis rock contract that wasn't discovered until they kind of resurfaced and had their like V1s are going to flip V2s moment. Um, and the other bug was that you could mint infinite rocks. So there's actually like token IDs above 100 all the way up to the limit of like uint 256. So you can basically just like mint any token ID you want. And those ones are like mad cheap, except for some of them, like 8888, or 8008 because it spells boob on a calculator. Like it was funny when the whole Genesis rock, when that exploit was found, you started to watch people express themselves with numbers, kind of similar to when people were chasing like ENS numbers, but rather than focusing on just like short, low numbers, people were literally just like coming up with numbers they thought would be meaningful. One
W-
one that I got was I got the date the smart contract was published in like kind of computer time code, like year, month, date of the Genesis Rock contract. So I have that Genesis Rock, which is neat. But yeah,
Hmm.
people be weird.
Yeah, yeah. By the way, guys, if you want to hop on stage and join the banter here, there's nothing planned, just me and Valko chatting here. So, Philippe, Frank, I actually might have some questions for you if you hop on. Chantal, feel free
Oh yeah,
to hop on.
Philip requested, so I'm letting him up.
So, yeah, Philippe's actually my dev guy. Yo, Philippe, what's up?
Hey guys, how's it going?
Very
Good, thanks for
good.
joining.
Yeah, it's a pleasure to be here. Every now and then I see the big Mr. Forever on stage, and I join in, and always having fun listening to you guys. Yeah, with the banter.
Well, yeah. So, Valko, remember last week I told you about this guy who's making me bullish on Soul? Well, that's Philippe himself now on stage. So,
Oh shit.
yeah, maybe I don't know. Later we'll have a couple of questions for you, Philippe. Maybe about the Solana and maybe about Ordinals because you're into that as well a bit.
Yeah, for sure. Anything, happy to help. I know sometimes these worlds they get a bit aggressive. They're cult like, but I think it's interesting to explore Ethereum world or EVM world, but also the Solana world. Open your horizons a bit. Definitely, I am bullish on Solana, even though the price action has just been like for the last 12 months or longer been like soul crushing for soul holders. But I really, I really think the blockchain Solana has a unique value versus what an Ethereum can do in terms of its scaling decisions. So I believe it has a place. I don't think they're necessarily competing with each other either. But happy to talk a bit more about that. Yeah.
Yeah, Valko, have you ever played with Solana NFTs yourself?
Honestly, no. My whole opinion, just to like I guess just be honest with where my head's at, but I'm very open to being enlightened because a friend of Forever Punks is a friend of mine, or I should say a friend of Mr. Forever is a friend of mine. With Solana, it was like it was one of the chains along with Polygon at the time that was just having like, soul punks and like soul this, soul that. So there was a sentiment of just like noise. And what was funny about that is for a long time, people are bitching about Ethereum gas prices and how they should be lower. And then finally, when they get what they want, they're complaining like I kind of felt like, oh, now it's full of spam and noise. So it's like, which one do you want, guys? I don't know. But obviously like Solana's had issues like with its reliability and uptime, I suppose. So there are many jokes about Solana not even being a blockchain. So I guess my first like criticism, or I would love to just understand what are your thoughts on that, and what might I have wrong about it, because I frankly haven't dug in beyond the headlines.
Yeah, for sure, man. I mean, Solana has taken a different design or several different design decisions. First of all, as you mentioned, by making transactions that are cheap, and then last year, and even this year, obviously, it went down a few times, because the chain is just being DDoSed, right? There's so many bots, and when mints happen, especially in 2021, 22, the chain would just stop responding, and the fee markets don't work the same way as Ethereum, does. And so back, especially in last bull run, Solana had fixed fees. There's something like, so the smallest increment of Sol is, by the way, called the Lamports. And so I believe it's like, I don't know, 2,500 Lamports or something, which is like a fraction of a fraction of a fraction of a dollar of a cent, It's like insanely cheap. And so you can easily spam the blockchain. And so they started building a few things. So to protect the network from spam, they have now upgraded the chain, a lot, I would say. So there's two things. One thing is you have priority fees. So if you want to like jump in front of someone else's transaction, you have that thing now as well. Obviously, the same exists in Ethereum, but still the majority is just the normal fixed fee, what they call the base fee. And then what I've been most impressed with Solana is they implemented local fee markets. And so that means in Ethereum or EVM in general, all your state is shared, right? So a NFT mint is competing for that same block space as a DeFi protocol. And so if a very popular NFT is being minted, it becomes also expensive for a DeFi protocol or whatever. Imagine liquidations need to happen at the same time as an NFT mint. You are competing as a transaction broadcaster for that same space, for that same state. And so with Solana, you have something called localized fee markets where I don't know how they do it. I don't know the technical details, right? I'm not a blockchain engineer specifically, but a popular mint can happen at the same time as a DeFi protocol liquidating stuff at very, high congestion times, let's call it, without congesting, that same state. And the reason they can do this is because they have things like parallel transactions. They can If you do a Solana transaction, you have to specify all the state and all the accounts that you're going to interact with, because everything is an account. It's kind of comparable to just a smart contract on Ethereum. And so you as a developer, you have to specify which state that a transaction is going to touch. And just because of that, where, or the blockchain rather knows where it's going to have to write some state. And because of that, you can parallelize. I don't know if that's right English, but you can do that stuff in parallel, right? And so I think these two things together, they helped a lot with the congestion and the DDoS attacks and things like that. And totally, he's one of the co-founders of Solana. He admitted that they fucked things up, right? I think my 2 cents is that they have very smart engineers. They made some mistakes in choosing who to partner with early on, the SBFs of the world, but no one knew that 2, 3 years ago, right? If an SBF who was super, super popular at the time comes to you and it's like, here's a bag of $300 million, you're like, okay, he's in bed with politicians or whatever. He seems legit. You accept that, right? And so I do think some bad decisions, quotes, have been made there. But as far as the tech is concerned, I really recommend you to look into it a bit more because it has improved drastically and it continues to improve.
So I guess the single thing that makes Solana so incredible, in your opinion, would be just the obscenely low transaction costs, and I guess behind that, general scalability. Is that accurate?
Um, Today, yes, but I believe Solana can enable new use cases. As an example, you might have seen,
Yeah, no, that's my follow-up
right?
question. Like, have we seen anything new on the DeFi or NFT front that is impossible on other chains, what
Yeah.
Solana is doing or maybe even starting to build.
I'm not saying it will have product market fit. I mean, I simply don't know. But something that has been popular with Solana fans, let's call them, including myself, is what is called DePIN. And that stands for decentralized physical infrastructure. Let me give you an example. There's three popular ones. Render, which is still today on Polygon, but they're migrating to Solana. I don't know if you're familiar with Render, but they decentralize compute, more specifically GPUs. So it's hard to get a graphics card these days. And I believe the Disneys of the world, they render a ton of stuff, right? CGI and all those things. And so if you don't have those resources yourself or in house, or there's a shortage for whatever reason, you can talk to Render, the protocol, to outsource that compute power, and that will be powered by Solana. There's some others that are already on Solana, like a Helium is basically a distributed, decentralized 5G, um, network. Let's call it. So if it's mostly in the US, in Europe, where I live, it's non-existent as far as I know. But if you're in the US, you can get like a Helium subscription, pay with tokens, and connect to their 5G network. And you at home, if you're in the US, you can host a hotspot and earn those tokens. So those kind of things are, you know, at least the narrative. Again, I don't know if they'll have product market fit or if they really will make sense for people in general. But what I'm gonna end with is you cannot do that on Ethereum. Even paying like $5, $6 a transaction, which is on sometimes on the low end for Ethereum, is just very hard. And I know this is kind of cringe, but if if you want to onboard people, most people they survive on less than $5 a day. They simply cannot afford Ethereum, and they won't even be able to afford layer twos either. I believe maybe with the proto dank sharding coming, but if, and I'll end with that. If blockchains will be as ubiquitous as Web2 or the internet in general, then we need to be smarter about, how much a transaction will or should cost. Now, having said that, I think Bitcoin and Ethereum are still the go-to chains if you want to do anything of value, like a CryptoPunk, right? It's worth around $100K. I'm not saying that you live on Solana, and that's why I'm saying they don't necessarily compete with each other. I think Solana has its use cases, such as the deep end stuff, and it will continue to search for maybe gaming or maybe low value NFTs. You can mint 100,000 NFTs on Solana for like a few dollars. Um, so I don't know, but I'm bullish just on the fact that it can enable specific use cases that are today not possible on EVM chains. That's why I have a back. But yeah, having said that, the tokenomics can be a lot better around Sol, the token specifically.
Yeah, no, that's super interesting. I was very much in the helium meta when that was happening. I dropped like $3,000 on 5 helium routers. I kept 2 for myself and gave 3 away as gifts. One I gave to a friend and I said, "Set this up with your kids and let them spend the money, the yield on whatever the hell they want." And he was like, "All right, deal." So they set it up at their house. It was pretty funny. But that network actually, I don't think it ever saw much utilization because the idea was, it's an industrial IoT sort of network, long range radio, LoRaWAN is superior to Wi-Fi or cellular for certain use cases that need long range, don't want to pay a lot of money for data, and need devices that can last a long time in the field that don't require like high don't have a need for a lot of battery consumption. So like the LoRaWAN has been around for a long time and used in industrial settings like refineries and pipelines. I've implemented thousands of sensors in a past job using LoRa. But I don't know how much usage Helium actually saw network wise, but it surely saw a lot of adoption in terms of people hosting um, the miners in exchange for like newly emitted HNT. And to your point, like as the rewards and the value of the helium HNT dropped, like it only could have made sense to stream such small micropayments on a network like Solana where gas is really low. That's pretty interesting. I know there's like in terms of like other streaming money protocols, there's Superfluid, which I've heard a lot of like DAOs talking about for paying their contributors in more real time. I'd be curious to like dig into Superfluid's documentation to see how they handle kind of like microtransactions, as it were, and streaming money to people on networks like Ethereum. And frankly, I don't know if they have a solution. The answer might be, well, it's impossible to do so on Ethereum. So I wonder if they're on Solana as well.
Yeah, fair. One last thing about Helium. They indeed started with IoT stuff, and you definitely know a lot more about it than I do because I've never used it. But recently, I think about a year ago, they did launch the 5G product, which I believe could have a bit more mainstream adoption because specifically if you want to access the internet through 5G. But yeah, who knows?
I wonder how easy it is for like participants, like nodes in that network, to go rogue and just intercept like people's data.
Yeah, so I listened to a podcast about it, and what I learned that surprised me was that it's not a replacement for what's your carrier in the US? I don't know, a Vodafone or AT&T or something. It does.
Is it more viewed as like a roaming backup solution?
Yeah, how I understood it is more like a forwarder almost. Like if you have AT&T at home, you can set up your, I don't know, your tethering to give it a name, and then someone can tether into it through Helium or something like that. I believe that's like more the
Oh,
use case.
that's it's almost like a centralized exchange secretly using Uniswap in the background.
Right. Yeah. That's a good analogy.
That's cool. Well, that's really exciting. Yeah, I mean, I pinned this tweet from 6529. It's from like 15, 16 days ago, the first of the month. And his question or his tweet was, if you were forced to hold a significant position in one fungible token for a decade and it was not Bitcoin or ETH, what would it be? Reply below. I consider this a legitimately very difficult question. And I mean, so many of his posts resonate with me, but this one really did resonate with me because, you know, it took a lot for me to open my eyes up to Ethereum back when I got my CryptoPunk in 2017. But I did open my eyes. I saw the opportunity for, you know, business automation, as it were. And smart contracts obviously were a massive advantage over what Bitcoin was capable of. But similarly, I am now struggling to open my eyes up to literally any other chain than Bitcoin or Ethereum. So I love hearing people's takes on, why we think this chain actually has long-term prospects and isn't just, you know, what 99.99% of the space is, which is frankly some cash grab or short-term thinking, and basically like the manifestation of greed and some story people convince themselves of. But yeah, Solana's definitely got some good legs to it. I know a lot of my friends are building their protocols on Arbitrum. Um, ZK Sync seems to be very promising. Optimism as well. I mean, I don't know what I'd love to like poll almost like every CryptoPunk holder with this question and see what the most commonly answered third option is, Bitcoin, Ethereum, then what is the next one? Because I don't know what my answer is, frankly.
Yeah, it's a good one. And maybe Valko pulling the conversation a bit back to NFTs themselves, right? So when you have a mint on ETH and there's like it's super hyped and it's super like in demand, the gas fees are like spiking like crazy, and it's very expensive for even us, to play with it. Whereas Sol, it's basically dust. Now, Philippe, maybe the next question for you is Bitcoin. Now that ordinals are coming along, part of the fun with NFTs is that it's like pretty quick and pretty instant, whereas ordinals they're tied to the Bitcoin like block time, which is 10 minutes, kind of to confirm. Like when you're having a fun mint or some fun NFT stuff, sometimes the speed of the mint plays a big factor. So that which you had fairly well with Ethereum and with Solana as well, for sure. Are you in Bitcoin NFTs a bit, Philippe, as well? And can you maybe share some thoughts on that?
Yeah, I do hold some ordinals, and as you personally know, I'm a bit of a Bitcoin maxi. I do think still it's if you can only hold one thing, my opinion, hold Bitcoin. You guys would probably say Ether, and I think that's fair. Uh, But I think ordinals, this is my 2 cents. It's more hype than anything substantial at the moment. It's basically a hack on the blockchain through Taproot. Not going to delve too much into the details, but if you look on CryptoSlam, for instance, CryptoSlam.io, it has done some volume in the past 2, 3 months, but most of it, if you really look closely, is wash trading. I don't think the watch trading algorithm for Bitcoin specifically works so well yet on CryptoSlam. And that's why they're not being identified as being watch traded. But there's very little legitimate, in my opinion, and maybe not even opinionated. You can read the data, but there's very little legitimate traffic, I think. And then that's not what your Ordinals influencer will tell you, right? And I'm also deep into stacks, which is like this Bitcoin layer two. And so I'm trying to be as unbiased as possible. I don't think Bitcoin is there, and I do believe EVM. Whether that's even even an Avalanche, I would say they have big head start on Bitcoin. I think it's very hard still today to build on Bitcoin. Having said that, um, Ethereum is the best casino ever made, and I think Bitcoin is more perhaps for provenance into the future because you don't get the endorphins, as you say. You have to wait 10 minutes or maybe an hour or half an hour for the next block. You're like, hey, when is the sale going to happen, right? And a mint can take literally days on Bitcoin. If you have to mint 10,000 items, that can take days, right? Before they're all minted. That's no fun. So I don't think the future of Bitcoin lies there. But as I, elaborated a bit already on Solana, I try to look at each blockchain for specific use cases. And I think the Bitcoin name still it rings, bigger or truer than the Ethereum name today. And maybe there's something there, even though I'm not really super bullish on ordinals.
Very interesting. I would consider myself in the same boat as you. Like, uh, if I had to say hold one thing forever, I think I would still put my money on Bitcoin over Ethereum right now. But, you know, my actual portfolio allocation is about 50-50. So I am pretty torn down the middle. And in fact, it might skew a little bit more to an ETH when you start to factor in NFTs. It might actually be 40-60 Bitcoin, Ethereum. But that's because, like, I guess I've got like a pulse on the market. I might not be short term trading here, but I'd like to think that if it's time to abandon the Ethereum ship because of some sort of catastrophic failure or centralization risk, that, I would be able to see that coming. But I don't know. I don't know. I think the ordinals thing is definitely interesting. I'm frankly surprised that it wasn't until like basically earlier this year that people started inscribing things onto Satoshis. Like, how do we only just discover this like so many years after Bitcoin came to life? Was there some technological advancement that enabled us to do such thing? Um, like,
That's a good question, actually.
or did somebody just discover an Easter egg or something?
Well, people have been inscribing stuff, but text through op return. Even Satoshi and then the first block had this chancellor on the brink of bailout text, right? That's an inscription, literally. But it was only in 2021 with the Taproot upgrade. If you Google that, you'll find a lot about it. That it became technically possible to inscribe more data and images and all that stuff. As far as I am concerned and understand, I haven't really looked further into it, but I know the
I
Taproot
wonder,
upgrade,
do we know
which
what
was
the file limit is for an inscription?
gigabytes, is per block. Yeah. So if you follow like the Taproot wizards, for instance, right? They were one of the first ordinals on Bitcoin. Udi and Eric Wall, they're quite famous on crypto Twitter,
Yeah.
and so they worked specifically with a miner to fill up a block because it's a bit of a hype if you can put all your ordinals into one block to them because they're incremented with an index, right? They say, oh, now we have 11 million ordinals, man. They all have a number, and it's pretty cool between quotes when you have them all meant together. But how do you do that, right? You need connections with a miner. And so some of them did. Think Frank of DGots, he did the same. He worked with a miner to just inscribe a whole block. So then the Bitcoin miner says, look, the next time we have, a block that we can mint, we'll put all your ordinals in it. And it's up to 4 MB. So yeah, you have to work with them or do it bit by bit.
Have you gone through the exercise of inscribing anything yourself?
Sorry, I dropped for a sec. Can you repeat?
Have you inscribed anything yourself?
Oh no, really easy. There's this website called brc-20.io, and you can inscribe stuff through like a UI. It will just ask you for a file. These are the tokens, the BRC20s, but you can also inscribe like an NFT, and it will just tell you how much sats you want to pay per virtual byte, and then do it. Or you can run your own full nodes. But I have not. No.
Yeah, no, me neither. You know, the feeling I have watching Ordinals kind of take off and grow is it's similar to like the FOMO I had watching Bored Apes go from like 0 to 100 really quickly. Like it catches your attention and you might make a decision that like you like it or you don't like it, or you like it and you're not gonna do the research because you're just busy with other things, and you'll kind of just watch from the sidelines. And then day after day you just see traction and momentum building. And that's definitely been the story with Ordinals. And it reminds me of watching Board Ape Yacht Club kind of rise to fame. I've definitely been a sideline figure with regards to Ordinals, that's for sure. Yeah, maybe I'll get involved. I'm pretty interested in it just because Bitcoin's block space is such a hard asset. But at the same time, there are so many limitations of the infrastructure versus Ethereum that I think it's going to be hard from an adoption standpoint. The whole case of like Solana versus Ethereum, even deeper on the spectrum is like Bitcoin ordinals in terms of accessibility and ease of use.
Right. Yeah, I think there's very few ordinals that are worth owning today. Who knows? Next week there might be another one, but today there's one called um, Node Monkeys, I think, and they're not minted yet, but they were stealth inscribed within the first 100,000 blocks. Apparently, it's a 10K collection. And so I think it's a Bitcoin OG or someone who knows the miners or something. And he is planning to release them in June or July. So that's a heavily anticipated mint. And then there's, I believe, um, yeah, some other one. I can't recall the name now, but there's only like 3 or 4 that are worth owning today. And maybe, like I said, they might not be worth owning next week already. So yeah, it's pretty risky.
Yeah. Frank, welcome to the stage.
Yo, Frank, what up?
GM. Hi all. Well, yeah, I hear you guys talking about ordinals, and yeah, I know most of the punks didn't have the chance, but I did a talk on ordinals, a panel in Lisbon, but it was just before the punks brunch, so most punks weren't able to come. So I was interested in what you guys are telling.
So do you agree, disagree with what I said? Or
Yeah, it's interesting. There were 4 people on stage, and 2 of them were engineers. One was me, and the other was Frank Dupont. Uh, and the 2 engineers, and you're also an engineer, Philip. So the 2 engineers indeed agreed it's a hack. And yeah, it's funny that we can do this. But yeah, at this moment, there is no real infrastructure. We really miss contracts. We miss a lot to actually make this work well.
Frank, why do you think it only gained traction and hype kind of like January 2023, at least by my measures? That's when it sort of started to get some legs. Taproot happened before that. And obviously, inscriptions were happening as early as like the first block, based on what Philip was saying.
Yeah, but the first block inscriptions and a lot that came after it, like printed codes and stuff like that, there we had that file limitation. Before that, it was definitely a hack and a gimmick. And, yeah, it's only when Taproot came out that you suddenly had a lot more space to do. And then, yeah, why did it explode a few months ago? Well, I think it's a universal question answer in the crypto space: greed. A few people who came up with, we can make money here, and they went for it.
Yeah, that sounds about right. You know, it's the same question. Why did Pepe all of a sudden moon? And it's the same answer. Some good stories driven by greed.
Yeah, I Pep indeed. Yeah, a set of people jumped on it and started doing 24/7 spaces, Twitter spaces that bumped it up. Of course, Pepe is a very universal meme. It's basically one of the first memes that we have in crypto. So it was a good choice that it is that one, I think. But it's bumped by a new wave of influencers. Let's call it like that.
Yeah, absolutely. I really liked Philippe what you said earlier about how Ethereum is the greatest casino there ever was because it's so true. And part of me hates that because it makes such a bad name for the space. You know, it doesn't help this idea of crypto is a scam, crypto is for money laundering, crypto is for degenerates. It absolutely does not help fight that negative narrative or connotation of crypto. However, I think the cool thing about it is, you know, it's almost like people have been wanting to um it's like if you went to a military academy and you had a very strict upbringing, and then all of a sudden you went to college and went fucking crazy because all the shackles were removed from you. That's exactly what happened with Ethereum. It's like we've had all of this financial oppression and rules and regulations our entire lives, and all of a sudden they were removed the moment Ethereum came to be. So the beautiful kind of silver lining of this kind of gross, greedy, gluttonous casino that is, you know, Ethereum and crypto oftentimes is that it's actually a testament for the freedom enabling nature of this technology, you know, which I believe, and I say this all the time, I think blockchain is the most freedom enabling technology in the world. And the reason this casino is popping off now is because, frankly, until this, it was impossible to run your own lottery or your own casino without having to, you know, first check in with the proverbial man.
Yeah, definitely. But yeah, it's liberating. But yeah, I live in Belgium, and in Belgium it is close to impossible to get the money back out.
Really? So, how does your off ramp compare to something like in the U.S.? That's what I'm used to.
Well, yeah, in Belgium, the banks are, let's call it, not really corrupt. Uh, if you pull out anything more than about 10, your bank accounts get locked, and you need to deliver in a ton of Excel sheets to prove that you're not money laundering, and so on and so on.
Is that limited to people withdrawing funds like 10K that came from an exchange, or is that
Yeah,
just across the board?
yeah, Ali, I'm on Kraken, and Kraken works together with a German bank. And when I do a withdrawal, they just see there's this money coming from that German bank. They probably know the account number. It just flagged, and they block it.
Geez, that's terrible. So what are people doing to respond to this aside from potentially just moving out of the country altogether
Uh,
or doing private transactions in back alleys?
a little bit of both. In my case, I have a foreign bank account. Another very well option is a lot of exchanges are now bringing their own Visa cards, so that's definitely also a good option. Um,
Yeah, that's a great option. Oh, I love that. Yeah, it's tricky, man. I run my one person consulting business, V3 Consulting, and majority of my income is paid to me in USDC. Thankfully, I didn't lose money in that depegging. That was definitely a scary moment though. Um
I made
I sort
money
of
in that
just like,
GPay.
oh my God, that's the baller status. What price did you get in at?
I got in at 0.8 something, I think.
Wow. There you go.
Yeah, it was a lucky move. Had something like, no, this is not going to happen. It will correct itself. A more a decent move, maybe. Say, okay, let's put some money. We'll see. Lose. Right? It's a casino, you know. Uh,
Hey,
Frank put his net worth in at the bottom. Real
nothing makes
calm.
me happier than high conviction bets um, turning out a great way or a bad way. It's just fun to see people, put their money where their mouth is. That's great.
but to come back to the Ordinals, I have a funny story on that one actually. So I was on stage weeks ago. It was already 2 weeks ago. Yeah, something like that. Week and a half. And so I was with two Ordinals maxis to call it like that, who had like a 100% conviction. And then I had Frank Dupont and me, who were the engineers. So we're saying it's a hack. And at a certain moment, I told to the guys, but actually, I brought an ordinal with me, brought a physical ordinal with me. So what is an ordinal? Well, an ordinal, it takes the smallest part of a sat and it inscribes art onto it. What did I do? Well, I took a 1 cent coin, a euro 1 cent coin, which is the very smallest part you can have, which is actually very hard to find at the moment in Europe. My Dremel tool, and I took the head of the king off, which is a felony, but okay. For a 1 cent coin, I don't think they will put me in jail. And then with a hammer and a puncher, I actually punched my punk into that. So I showed it on stage. Say, look, this is a physical ordinal. It's identically the same as a Bitcoin ordinal, but it's physical. I said, and it was like 10:30 in the morning and something like that. I said, yeah, the first guy that pays me a beer after the talk will actually get this physical ordinal from me. And there was this random dude in the audience that just got up, went straight to the bar, and brought me back a beer. And I gave him a coin. That was pretty fun.
Frank, I think you need to set up an Etsy store selling these. I'd buy one.
Yeah, well, actually, several people that came to me and said, yeah, but I wanted the coin too. I said, yes, I'm sorry, but it's unique. I made one. I spent a lot of time on it making it, and I don't think I will make any others ever again.
You need to film the process,
I made
then
pictures.
hire,
I made
an
pictures.
army of interns to do it, and then set up an Etsy store. But it's it should be like a satirical Etsy store that only accepts payment in crypto.
Oh, yes, probably.
That would be great. I'd sign up. I'd buy one for all my punks.
Yes.
Frank, you should have auctioned that ordinal off. I think you left money on the table here.
Maybe,
Yeah,
maybe,
world's
maybe,
first physical ordinal.
yes, maybe I left some money on the table there, but it was just found it just very, very funny to do. I had to make a little bit of fun about what is an ordinal, actually.
That's great. Well, guys, I unfortunately have to leave right here on the hour, but today was super fun. We covered some good topics. We got into some soul. Thank you, Philippe, for coming up. We got some good ordinals action. Very, very pleased. I suppose NFTs are not actually dead.
Not yet.
Yeah, thanks for having me. It's been a pleasure.
Well, guys, we'll see you next week, Monday, same time.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Ciao.
Thanks for having me.
Ciao.
Bye-bye.